Hello and welcome to the Average Australian Podcast, episode 4. I am Chad Tondu. With me is Eden. We are here tonight talking about our impressions of Ubisoft's Watch Dogs 2. We will also be talking about an interesting image published on the Minecraft Twitter account that was subsequently deleted. There's discussion about Sony's comments towards No Man's Sky PR strategy. And to close out the show, we'll be taking a quick look at games being released in the next week or so and giving our recommendations for whatever they're worth. All of that and much, much more to come right now. So welcome to episode 4. Eden, how are you?
Very well, very well. How are you, Chad?
I am pretty good. It's quite heavy rain over here, so I'm just trying to keep dry.
I saw some wild weather going on over there. Hey,
it is pretty crazy. Windows shaking and everything.
Still good, man.
It was a bit troubling earlier today, but it's fine now.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
cool.
It was. Yeah. What have you been playing this week? Is it still Trackmania?
It's still Trackmania, yeah. I've cleared the green tracks onto the blue ones now.
What number's that?
I don't know. So that's like tracks. I think 80
and all
onwards.
Gold medals. All gold medals.
Look, I don't even move past the track until I've got gold, and I don't know why, but I was even like going back and trying to get the track master on a few. Like,
how many are you on that? Like 10 or something, 15?
No, only like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just hate that game, but love it. Like,
I was thinking about that. Do you think it's like it's on sale? I think right now $25.
I saw. Yeah, I think I picked it up at the last sale where it was 30, and now it's dropped even more. But yeah,
do you think it's an awesome game? A game worth buying if you're not getting the plat though? Like, it seems like it's a great direction with the plat, but without it, it's a bit aimless. You think that's true? Or?
Yeah, I think if you're not into those kind of, and usually I'm not into those trial and error games like the trials or those kind of games. I don't usually have the patience for them, but something about Trackmania just clicked. Yeah. But
you like car games,
not going to do games, so that's probably where it clicked for me. But I think if you're not into, you don't have to go for the plat, I guess, but if you're not into that, trying to get the perfect
it seems to
score,
create a good pathway though, right? Like, to get your enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, but without that, like, I mean, there's other game modes and things like that, but the challenge is really just in trying to beat those times. And I mean, looking at some of the YouTube videos, some of those guys have Trackmaster on every single track. So
that's
look,
excessive.
If you're not going for that, there's not much else in that game. So it's good that the platinum's kind of tied to that progression through the game. So I love it. But if you're not into that, I probably wouldn't recommend it, or you ever get frustrated and feel like smashing your controller against the wall, probably not a good game to play.
Well, in terms of frustration, I actually, for some reason, went out and bought the Bloodborne DLC. Now, the game is amazing, but like in my mind, I got the plat. In my mind, I thought I'd go back and be able to pick it up and be at the same skill level.
Yep.
And I'm just nowhere near that level, and I'm playing content that is like above where the plat was. And it's just so difficult.
Yeah, right.
It's so frustrating.
But I mean, your character's maxed out, right? Your character's
but
at a high level.
But like when you finish the game and get the plat, the new game plus rolls over, so you can't actually start before the final boss. It's like at the start of a harder difficulty. Yeah, right. So you've got to go through, do the first 2 bosses, and then do the DLC. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's like really rough.
That's one of those games that, your skills sort of build up over time on that one. But I think with those games, the Soul series games, I remember, that's like Ninja Gaiden back in the day on Xbox. That was just one of those super hard games. And that's one that I can actually say, I'm proud to say that I finished Ninja Gaiden on Xbox. But it's one of those games like they're never really, I don't think, cheap or unfair. When you die or whatever, you know why, and you know that it's your fault that you made that mistake. Generally speaking, I think, and no
matter how much you play, what level you are, the skill level, you make a mistake, you get punished. It doesn't matter what level you are. Like, it's the consistency of like.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Those games are fair, I think. So I think that you have to keep playing it and building up your skills. And like you said, once you stop playing,
it's been like 8 months.
That's probably why sometimes.
You just don't go back to some games.
Like sometimes in Trackmania. That's right. Yeah. You left it too long, and now it's going to take you a while to build it up. But I was going to say, like, that's why sometimes for me in Trackmania, it's like that. When I'm struggling with a track, I'll just keep playing it because I know if I stop and come back the next day, sometimes it's like
unlearn the track.
I'm back to like completely. Yeah, you're completely out of it. So you just got to keep going and get better with it.
So okay, first topic, Watch Dogs 2. Now, there's been a whole bunch of gameplay footage released. There was also a story trailer which kind of confused me a little bit.
They're flooding the internet with it now, aren't they? They're really pushing it hard.
Much different than Watch Dogs 1. That didn't have too many gameplay released. I think Polygon even has 100-minute raw gameplay footage video out, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, right.
So how much of Watch Dogs 2 have you seen? What's your early impressions from the footage you've seen or everything you've heard?
I've seen a couple of video playthroughs, and like you said, it definitely looks different to Watch Dogs 1. I think they've kind of gone on a completely different angle. So about the hacking now and the the technology side of things, I kind of picking up a few little things, I guess maybe like the Mr. Robot series that's really got big now on TV, so they're kind of going down that angle.
It's much more lighter, like they're making fun of it.
That's right, and that's where I kind of wasn't feeling it a little bit. It's got that they're going for that open world craziness, and like look at all the crazy stuff you can do. Like there's so many gadgets you've got. I saw you've got like the drone that you can launch. You can just like remote control any police car or anything. You can like set cops on people. There's just so many like crazy. They're really going for that open world, like, hey, run amok, do whatever you want, go crazy. So I think on that side it's cool. Maybe it's a little bit too goofy. Maybe it's I don't know what the story is yet. I mean, I didn't actually see that story trailer, so I'm not sure.
It seems to be about
what's this,
the big scary government, how like surveillance and storage, like like them restoring metadata and being able to track where you are and what your day-to-day activities are. So there seems to be a bunch of like us versus them mentality. I've noticed there's a bunch of
they're
new,
going
like
for that sort of Big Brother and
definitely, I think that's the main like plot storyline to push. But I've noticed that there's like a lot more like social like activities. Like there's photography, and like you can take a selfie and you upload it and you get more followers. There's like this weird Instagram like e-fame like thing attached to it, which is kind of weird.
A lot of, I'm getting like some Saints Row vibes from it. Like they're just kind of going over the top a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I really am getting a few of these Saints Row vibes where it's just more not in the gameplay, but in its personality. That's right, and I think that's a heat because Watch Dogs, I like Watch Dogs. I thought it was all right. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for the fact that they had just done this kind of like over-the-top reveal trailer with these, let's just call them like bullshit graphics that were like almost, fake graphics. Because you remember the E3 Watch Dogs when everybody watched it and was just like, whoa. There's his jacket flapping in the wind and all that sort of stuff. And it just looked amazing. And then
I thought
that's right, it just looked insane.
I thought the original was way underrated. Like, as you said, I get the controversy with E3. I didn't like Aiden as a main character. The drinking game, remember that? That was so frustrating. But
I did it. I got the plat. That was a nightmare.
I even got you to help me. Remember?
Completely unrelated. And that was just like a stupid. Like it's almost like they didn't know what to fill the game with. Like they were like, "Oh, it's an open world game. We need some sort of side missions. Oh, how about a drinking game?" Like,
and also that augmented reality thing, I hated that too. That like the shooting aliens.
Rushed. You could see like they were rushing it in the end just to get it out. And like you said, it will look like a bit of a mess. And that was kind of, I think at the time, Ubisoft was starting to cop a bit of heat as well because a lot of their games were like that. You could just see they were like the Assassin's Creed games were going down that path as well. Like they were just a bit of a mess.
They get criticized for
but
the
overall,
watch post unlock to unlock everything else.
That's right. Yeah, the watchtowers and all that sort of stuff. But in the end, like you said, I thought it was actually pretty underrated in the end. And I think if there wasn't all that hype and stuff to begin with, people would have probably been a little bit. But in the end, it was all right. But the problem was, I think Aiden Pierce was a dick.
Yeah, he was.
The story was kind of lame. And it was like he was dark and brooding and all this sort of stuff, but not for like a good reason almost.
It was his child was killed in a car accident, right? That was the premise.
I think, was it his child or was it like his niece or something like that? But she was killed because of him almost or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it was almost like his fault. Yeah. And then like to get revenge or something, he was like still messing up other people's lives in the process. He was just
It's hard to have fun like in that sort of like mindset, right? Because you can't go off like I understand the drinking game in that sense because he's depressed, but like you couldn't have Aiden Pierce and then take photography like in Snapchat to Instagram, right? So
that's right. And that's why that augmented reality game didn't make sense as well. I was like, what the hell? But yeah, it was really sort of dark and brooding and stuff, but without the story to back it up, for one. And then two, like the hacking, all this hacking stuff was just kind of thrown in. Like
it was pedestrian, right?
The way they made it seem, again, yeah, I mean, again, like the way they made it seem in that E3 trailer, you know, like all the stuff, he was basically controlling the traffic and all this. They made it like seem that the hacking was just this awesome thing. But then I just found pretty much most of the missions I was just hiding into cover and popping out of cover and shooting everybody in the head. Do you know what I mean? Like the hacking stuff, and then you would hack a few little cameras or something like that. But
because the hacking of people's money was just you know, you didn't even think about it, right? Like you just went past someone and pressed a button and then walked on.
Well, like you didn't even need the money. What in the end? It was just stupid. Like there was. Like I said, in the end, I like open world games, and it was early days in the PS4 back then. I mean, I think that was like the first platinum I got on PS4.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, that sort of I think, like PS4 came out, November, the year which was like March or something like that. Yeah, so it was pretty early on for the PS4, and I think people were kind of, you know, clamoring for something. And if you're into open world games, it was still decent. Like, you know, you'd get your fix.
It's interesting
but
that
it looks like now for
with Watch Dogs 2, I've seen that like you can do character emotes and like the NPCs, like people walking around the street, they actually react to you doing that. Like if you like put the middle finger up at them, they actually like react and like punch you, and like someone calls the cops. So there's like more interaction like on a social level, which like seems like a great idea.
Yeah, I think they've just sort of picked up on all the criticism from the first Watch Dogs, and like you said, they've tried to lighten it up. They've tried to make it more about hacking, way more open world stuff in there. They've taken all the criticisms on board. It's just now like, have they gone too far in the other direction now?
Like too quirky.
Like now maybe they've gone, now that maybe they've gone over the top, but remains to be seen. But definitely, like the open world stuff looks fun. You know, with Ubisoft, there's going to be a shitload of things to do.
Yeah, 100%,
and it looks pretty good. So now it's just a toss-up. Like, are you going to go for Watch Dogs 2 or are you going to go for Mafia 3? I think they both got like a fair bit of that open world fun and a little bit of quirkiness and stuff like that.
Are you leaning towards one?
I kind of really want to play Mafia 3. It seems like it's got a few interesting elements, but I think Watch Dogs 2 will probably do better in terms of.
I think it'll take more of your time. I think it'll be like a better value for money, if you want to use that term.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It'll have. It's a Ubisoft title. You know what I mean? Like they've got teams of like 1,000 people putting those games together. Like it'll give you everything.
Strangely, Watch Dogs 1, I think biggest strength was their online features, but I haven't heard anything about online. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but like it seems to be all about single player at the moment.
And that was super underrated, wasn't it? Like the invasions. Look, I probably wouldn't have checked it out if there weren't trophies involved, but it was actually really good fun. And that kind of thrill of like, you know, you're hiding and that the other guy's like chasing you.
How intense that is.
There was a few there where you're just hiding and the time's running out and you can see him running around and he's scanning for you. And it was
like the cat and mouse where you're like in the crowd just hiding, like with your head down, and you see them run past.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And they're running around and they're trying to find you. I
Yeah.
thought it was really well done. And like you said, quite underrated. But yeah, I don't know. Are they just sort of keeping that to be revealed later? I mean, there's not much time. The game comes out soon. So
maybe it is a sign of their awareness that the online was well received and they're focusing on what wasn't. Like maybe that's what it is.
yeah, maybe there's nothing new to show there and they're just going to
Yeah.
come the same modes. Like I didn't really play too much of the racing in the first Watch Dogs. I thought the racing was like, meh, whatever. I wasn't really big on that. But the cat and mouse stuff, yeah, that was the invasions and all that. That was great. So look, maybe they're just going to sort of do more of the same, and they're probably just really trying to show the story to say, look, we heard you, we got rid of Aiden Pierce, you know, it's all about the hacking now, it's all about the internet. Like, you know, another one of those things in Watch Dogs everybody was saying was like, why isn't he like listening to music on his phone? Like, why isn't he's got this phone, but he's not like streaming music or whatever, do you know what I mean? Like,
that's really weird, right?
Things. Yeah, so now it's like you can stream the music and all that sort of stuff.
I see music songs are actually part of like the collectibles. What other game did that? Right. I was trying to think when I was like looking at topics for the week. There was a game.
I think that was Watch Dogs. I think that was Watch Dogs. In the first one, there was a trophy where you had to like steal 30 different songs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Or whatever, remember? But
so they didn't let you play music through your phone. Is that?
I don't think so, because I remember like there was something there, like, you know, you'd get interrupted with like news broadcasts.
Yeah.
Like that. So I think now they're really making it like that phone is everything. Do you know what I mean? Like that is your hub.
I see you can use that to become an Uber driver. You're looking forward to be
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's Uber. Yeah. So look, that's why I'm really getting some Saints Row vibes from it. So I hope they haven't gone over the top, because I love Mr. Robot. So even if they went down,
I still got to get into that.
Look, yeah, and it's such an awesome show. And even if they went down like a super serious path of like kept it to like hacking and, you know, big technology companies and all that sort of stuff,
like
then
metadata,
it still would have been interesting. Yeah, and all that sort of stuff. They could have touched on that, but
it might still tell a message about surveillance at the end of it. Like it still might be underlining.
I think it will. I think it will, but they're probably going to keep it like fairly sort of broad and generic, I think, and they're just going to let you run amok in the open world, because probably that stuff wasn't there enough in the first Watch Dogs. So I think it'll do well. I think it looks pretty good. I'll probably pick it up because, like I said, I really did enjoy the first Watch Dogs.
I think I'm going to commit day one. I'm just going to go.
All right, you go for that. I'll go for Mafia 3.
Okay, and we'll report. Well, Mafia's out way earlier, right? It's 2 weeks.
That's right. I think that's coming out maybe 2 weeks time. So yeah, I think I'll get into that, and maybe I can breeze through that and then be ready for.
Yeah. So okay. Well, let's move on. I guess with Minecraft, there was a news about a potential leak announcement that hinted at cross-platform finally happening between PlayStation and Microsoft. Did you want to fill us in on exactly what's happened since you wrote the article and, you know, like just the details behind it?
Well, that's an interesting one because, some people sort of quickly spotted a tweet from the Minecraft account basically saying, hey, look, cross-platform play from any device. And you know, there's a photo with the Xbox controller, the PlayStation controller, the iPhone, the tablet, the computer. And so people quickly caught onto that. The tweet was taken down and replaced with another one, basically just the same sort of caption, but minus the PlayStation controller.
I don't know if you remember, but in E3, I think it was this year, Minecraft had a big presence at Xbox, and they were really focusing on the connectivity between each platform. They didn't mention Sony, obviously, but do you think the leak, was it a mistake? Is there an intention behind it? Was it malicious?
That's what I'm not sure. Like, there's still a lot of speculation and nothing's really been confirmed. What we do know is that Minecraft, I think, has actually been cross-platform for a while, or it has been announced that it would be cross-platform for a while in terms of if you're on an iPad, if you're on a PC, if you're on, you know, an iPhone or an Android phone or an Xbox, you can all play. Whether that's now going to include PlayStation or not, I don't know. Like, everybody's still speculating. Nothing's been announced. And from what I understand, there's actually nothing that can stop the cross-platform play from happening if it allows it, because with games like Minecraft that are on they're not on PlayStation servers. You know, it's on private servers that are hosted
But
in
couldn't Sony just
Microsoft
threaten to
Azure, I
take it
guess.
away? Couldn't they just like flex it?
That's the only thing that I guess they could do, is basically if there was a patch that needed to be, you know,
Yeah.
4 version of Minecraft, they could decline the patch or something like that. But then they're getting into tricky waters, because the other sort of cross-platform title that was announced was Rocket League. And so if you've got Rocket League on Steam, you can play it either against Xbox players or PlayStation players.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know exactly how it works, but I think it's randomized. So if you log on to Rocket League on your PC, you might see you'll see PC and Xbox players,
Yeah, it's
or
like
you'll
a queue
see
system, I
PC
think.
and PlayStation players. Yeah, but you'll never see both. But from what I understand, that's just a control put in there by the developer.
It is, yeah.
So they're just doing a favor, I guess, or just kind of abiding by Sony's regulation.
I think like with Rocket League as the example, if you have PC, PlayStation, and Xbox together, I think Rocket League actually have to make their own user like group system to put everyone together, because I don't think the technology is there where like you can. This is like when you partying up together, by the way, not just playing. I'm talking about partying up.
Right.
Like I don't think Xbox and PlayStation people can party together. Like I don't think that's possible.
No, I don't think you could party. I don't think you could party, but you could probably just enter a lobby.
Yeah.
You could all connect to the same server and connect to the lobby and play just like a random team game. So yeah, parties are probably still, you've got to be on the same network, PlayStation network, or there's probably like a lot of protocols there and things like that. Because then, you know, you've got your chat and your communications and things like that. And obviously there's a lot of security and things around that. But can a PlayStation 4 connect to the same Rocket League server that a PC is connected to? They can. They are at the moment. Yeah. And an Xbox and a PC can also connect to the same server. So I think it's just, I mean, the Rocket League developers, they're on good terms with Sony. Sony put that game out as a PS Plus title and kind of just launched that game. So they got to be good to Sony. But I think that's all it is they're basically just filtering it. So they're saying, look, either you're going to see all Xbox players or you're going to see all PlayStation players. Microsoft, the Minecraft servers are on Microsoft servers. They don't care. They'll just be like, you know what, if we'll let everybody connect. And so they're kind of going to force Sony's hand in a way. So that's where it gets interesting. Like this.
With that being said, do you think this Twitter post, image, that's now been deleted, is it malicious, mistake, or pressure? Like if you had to go out on a limb, obviously we don't know, but if you were to guess, speculate, what do you think it is? Mistake or?
It's hard to say. It could just be a mistake, and you see those, especially with like PR in gaming companies. You see it like, you know, sometimes I can't remember. There's been ones like, you know, they post a post for like Gran Turismo, and it's got like a Forza screenshot. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like
looking at
those
stock
things
images,
happen.
right? They're trying to like find something.
Some dudes just Google image something and like going, oh yeah, cross-platform play, sweet. Or so I mean that's probably what's happened there. And then someone from Microsoft saw it and was just like, you know, shit, take that down because it's not happening or it's wrong or we don't want to piss Sony off or whatever. The conspiracy theorists want to believe that, hey, Microsoft's just going to do this and just be like, screw you, Sony. What are you going to do about it? Like, what are they going to do? Block Minecraft from being online? Like, Minecraft is huge, man. It's like, you know, we're not really that into it or whatever, but it's a big title. It's worth a lot of money and there's a lot of players.
What frustrates me is that people, like, I understand it from one respect, but people always seem to use this as like another way to attack Sony. Like, people need to realize that Microsoft was against cross-platform play before Sony was. Final Fantasy 14 came out at the end of the PlayStation 3 Xbox cycle. It was one of the first games on PS4, and Microsoft were completely against it, like 100% against it. Like, so my question to you is, cross-platform pushed always by the underdog, the person that's selling the least consoles? Like, essentially what cross-platform does, it attempts to make a user base irrelevant, right? So instead you're fighting on a better UI, the better service now. Xbox obviously better with the PSN always down, the best hardware, Project Scorpio is coming. So like, I don't get why people are attacking Sony when Microsoft has done this before as well. Like,
yeah, I think you're right. It's just a tit for tat. Like whoever's sort of stage kind of wants cross-platform play to, like you said, beef up their players and their numbers online. So Sony's playing hardball now, but when the shoe goes on the other foot and Scorpio comes out and maybe people move to Xbox, are then Sony going to want it? Like, do you know what I mean? It's a tough one. Say is, like you said, Sony just have a super flaky online network.
Service.
Like the PSN is just, I don't know how it's just a mud house. Like it's just going to collapse at any time. And they're super paranoid about things like security and things. And there is hackers on, as soon as you open things up, you get more hackers and, account theft and stuff. So Sony have some concerns there probably as well, but they're in the lead. Why do they want to let Microsoft players, Xbox players piggyback off their numbers and things like that? At the same time, it makes it more fun for everyone, because when it comes time that game is dwindling in numbers, do you know what I mean? When it comes time that there's only, like, you look at a game that's flopped hard like Battleborn, I think there's only like maybe a few hundred people playing it on Steam. There's a few hundred probably playing it on Xbox and a few hundred on PS4. Wouldn't it be great if they could all party up then, and at least then you'd have like maybe a couple of thousand players or something overall. So as a game player, like you look at it and you're just like, they should just open it up. Who cares? Like, because when the games are hot, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. But with niche titles and as titles drop, but you look at it from Sony's point of view, and as soon as they do that, that's another point of difference gone. Because then it's really like, well, I'm playing on an Xbox, you're playing on a PlayStation, but we're playing each other in Call of Duty. All of a sudden, it's just like another sort of divider gone and another point of difference gone between the consoles. So I can understand it from their point of view, but as a game player and as a consumer, I would say just open it up.
Yeah. Do you think Sony will?
I think so, yeah.
Do you think Sony will?
Another thing about that speculation was maybe Microsoft and Sony have come to terms, and maybe that's why this image was done and someone knew something, but like it hasn't been officially announced or something like that. But Sony haven't said anything, and I haven't seen any sort of speculation around that, so I doubt it, but don't know, what's going to happen there. It remains to be seen. Sony are pretty good at just sort of not saying anything a lot of the time, so so far we know nothing.
Yeah, obviously Sony, they do speak up about other topics. There was an article 2 weeks ago, which interests me a lot because I think it leads to a much larger debate about game hype and how it gets created, what typically happens when a game fails to hit that levels. We spoke about this before. I think it was last week or the week before. You mentioned often the biggest supporters of a game are the ones who end up sending death threats, which is completely insane to me. But so in this case, basically Sony's president, Shuei Yoshida, come out and he said that he understood why players are upset with No Man's Sky. The features that were promised were not in the game. And, we saw what happened with Sean Murray went, for complete radio silence. They haven't posted on their Twitter account since August the 18th now. What's your thoughts on the example of No Man's Sky when thinking about games, like hyped up to a level that, most games will never reach? Like, who's to blame for this? Is it Sean Murray?
I think everybody's partly to blame, including the people, the fans or the people who bought into the hype. But these were like just stunning comments from Yoshida. I thought, like, they just. He just basically, threw No Man's Sky and Hello Games under the bridge there, under the bus. You know what I mean? That was just, I couldn't believe what I was reading. He was just basically saying, they really stuffed up, didn't they? I was like,
so like, I still like the game.
Reading into it, I saw, Sony's involvement with that game was a bit sort of wishy-washy, where apparently they were only responsible for publishing the disc version of the game. They weren't taking on like
involved
the
in
full
marketing
publishing. You know, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm actually, I think it's a really big from Sony here. For just basically, they rode the coat, like they had no games coming out. They had nothing. They had nothing on the horizon.
No.
They took this indie game from like a 10-man team, built it up into the biggest hype shitstorm you've ever seen on the coattails, took all the, you know, helped themselves to a large chunk of the profits. And now that there's this massive backlash, they just went, oh, well, no, it was all their fault. We weren't even involved, you know. What? Yeah,
that's
they really
should have got
a PR person.
Because if God of War or The Last of Us 2 was out the same month, No Man's Sky were on their own, right? They were not getting this sort of like promotion from Sony for free.
Sony took them for a ride. I mean, you know, and they almost pretty much, they said, oh, we're going to market this as if it's a first party title. Like, they took them under their wing because they needed them, because they had no games coming out. They had nothing to promote. Of like cozied up to No Man's Sky and brought it under its wing. Like, this is going to be our flagship title. And now that there's all this backlash, they just wash their hands of it. And
but
you know,
they're
telling Sean Murray. Yeah.
To be fair, like Sean Murray could have come out and said that some of the features we promised or we hyped up aren't in the game. Like, do you think Sony had a gun to his head and said, "You want to keep doing this no matter what the product looks like"? His reputation's on the line. Like, this will impact his next game if like Hello Games, you know, stays around. Like,
and like he didn't do enough to put the hype in check, and that's what Yoshida's saying.
Yeah.
But you know, for Yoshida to say, "Oh, well, maybe they should have, you know, hired a PR company or something," well. Doesn't Sony probably have like 1,000 PR people?
Yeah.
Couldn't they have like, you know, given this guy one of their numbers and gone, hey, we're going to assign a couple of PR people to manage this?
Yeah.
So either it was all Sean Murray in the hype train.
In over his head. It's probably not innocently. Yeah.
Innocently, just kind of like going along with it and all this sort of stuff. And like maybe they had a lot of these features in mind, but they just couldn't get it out in time. That's another option. And then, you know, there's Sony. They were just sort of sitting on the sidelines and going, look, not really taking a close enough look and just kind of riding along and going, yeah, whatever you guys say, then but, you know, maybe they were just spectators as well. But I just think that they probably could have done a bit more to defend it now. Like, there's not much to defend, but maybe they can kind of put their hand up and go like, yeah, maybe we should have helped him out or something. But they just really like left him all alone. Do you know what I mean? Like they really just kind of said, no, it wasn't us at all. They should have done a better job, and it was still an all right game. And it's almost like they've kind of sided with the gamers now and take, you know, Hello Games. And it's like,
I'd love to know Sean Murray's relationship with Sony right now. I'd love to like have like an off the record and like talk with him just to see exactly if he's like upset about what Sony's involvement or anything like that.
I would like to see that as well, because look, Sony, I think the game flopped in terms of critical reception.
Yeah, it did.
But I think they sold a lot of copies. I think it made a lot of money for Hello Games.
So it depends how cynical you are. Depends how cynical you are. You would say, yeah, it was a success. Look at the sales. But as I said before, like, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know how much this impacts their next title. Like, maybe Sony doesn't even care, but like.
Well, and that's what bothers me, is that at the end of the day, Sony don't care, and that's I'm kind of getting that feeling like Hello Games is now being like chewed up and spat out by Sony. The Sony machine is going to keep rolling on. They'll pick up some other title. You know, they'll keep making their money. But like you said, these guys' reputation is now damaged. Who's going to buy the next Hello Games title? Who's going to, you know, buy the next Sean Murray associated title? The heat's on them. People are going to still keep playing PlayStation. And so that's why I think maybe it wouldn't have hurt for Sony to come out in a little bit more support, and kind of give them a little bit more backing and go, yeah, look, we could have done this and that, but look, there's more content on the way, or, even just spin some bullshit about like, they wanted to do these features, but there wasn't enough time. And look, maybe bust because they got caught off guard as well, because Sony thought all the hype, they believed it all, and they thought all these features were coming. Yeah, I said, maybe they were being fed the same story or whatever, and they just kind of believed it. And now that they got caught out a little bit, they thought, well, we got to push back a little bit against.
You think if Sean Murray was straight, but if Sean Murray was completely innocent, you think you'd hear more from him though, like on Twitter, and like to try to defend the product, say we're a 10-man team, like keep reinforcing how small they are and the task in the head of them, how big it is.
That's right. And I think there is a little bit of that. Like you said, it was a little bit innocent where people kind of got carried away, and he kind of probably just didn't do enough to. And look, like I said, they're an indie team. They're a small team. All of a sudden, this is going to be like as big as like the next Call of Duty or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like they probably got a little bit caught out and they didn't know how to handle it. And, weren't they on like, Jimmy Fallon and all this sort of stuff?
It was even bigger than that. They were trying to like redefine a genre. It was like exploration, like at a level that we haven't seen in like a game since like Eve.
That's
like,
right.
And that's not even.
Could just be that this was like the biggest masterstroke from Hello Games, where like they created this hype, whatever. They sold a shitload of copies. Sure, their reputation's burned, but they're so rich now that they don't care. Maybe that's what it is. In which case, karma's a bitch and they'll probably get theirs. But then on the other hand, if it wasn't, and if it was purely innocent and there was just a little bit of mismanagement from everybody, then probably could have done a little bit more as well. So I think
there's faults on both sides, personally.
I think so. I'm just sort of hoping that in a couple of years' time, it's just all going to come out and we'll know, because this is one of those games that
has a good story behind it.
I think so. There's a lot that must have gone on behind the scenes here, and it'll be good for someone to do a bit of digging around and get a little bit of a tell-all. And I think it's still too early. Like you said, it's probably still too early for Sean Murray to just come out and go to spill his guts and say, here's what happened. Do you know what I mean? It's just too early, but I think it will happen.
Games on Xbox, we might have an indication.
Yeah, exactly. And, it will come out eventually, I think, and there's probably some very interesting stories to go along with this. So I don't know whose side to take, but I think in general, probably everybody's a little bit at fault.
The end result is gamers lose out, right? Because it's their money they spent and they're not getting a product that they thought they were getting, right? So whoever.
But again, that brings us back to that point of like reviews. Like, why are you the game's not out. You don't have to pre-order it. Wait for the review. Don't believe the hype. Be a little bit skeptical, but that's what I just don't get, like why people are just so willing to believe everything they see about a game. Like those same people wouldn't believe everything they saw about the new iPhone or the next, the new Transformers movie or whatever, for calling bullshit. But for a game, whatever.
They just have their head in their sand for like the last year, and like, because like, I understand the argument, because at E3, I forget what year it was, but they showed like large space combat fights, like actual gameplay footage, and like, wow, this looks cool. And then, as the game progresses longer and longer, you don't see it ever again. So like, should consumers at that point just wait until the review? Like, is that where you just say, well, hold on a second?
Of course. Yeah. Like pre-ordering is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, just wait for the review, and there's no... And not only that, but if all you've been shown is previews, don't get sucked in. And people just get sucked in time after time. And that's where, like you said, there's probably a little bit of fault from the developer and from the publisher and things like that, where the previews that we're shown are just so fake. They're so manicured and presented. And like I said, you go back to Watch Dogs, you go back to No Man's Sky, the trailers that were shown there. You go back to just so many titles, The Division, Destiny, where just the the gameplay that they show at E3 and stuff is just so well scripted and manicured and highly polished and presented, and you get sucked in. You're like, wow, this is. But like the game will come out, you don't have to pre-order it. You can just buy it the next day and download it, and you'll have it. Like you can wait one extra day just to.
It's like false outrage in a sense, right? Like because at the end of the day, if you looked and waited, you wouldn't have committed to this at all.
That's right. And people were just so obsessed with it before it came out. Like you said, there was that article on No Man's Sky has been delayed, and the reporter was getting death threats from people
announcing a delay. That is insanity.
Like how invested can you be in something that doesn't exist?
Never seen.
At that point, the game that you might as well not exist, right? Because it could just be cancelled the next day and never come out. Exactly. So invested in something like that just boggles me. So from that point of view, the fact that people got burned, we have much sympathy.
No,
because it's not that hard to just wait a couple of days and then see it. And that's where I was interested. I was just actually listening to some older podcasts from Giant Bomb. And a couple of times it was interesting where I heard, like, especially Jeff Gerstmann kind of cynically was hinting at, like, that there might not be much to do in this game. Like, he's pretty cynical generally, and he was kind of seeing through the veil a little bit, and he was kind of calling it out pretty early that looks like there might not be much to do in this game. And those guys were in their previews, like they were hyped, but they were still kind of reserved and a bit apprehensive. Whereas some people just went off the deep end for that game, and I can't understand why. I really
see what's going to be the next No Man's Sky? Like, I was trying to look at what game is getting hyped to that level that isn't out yet.
I seriously hope it's not Horizon Zero Dawn. I really hope it's not that, because that's getting a lot of hype at the moment, and that game looks awesome.
It does,
and that's what worries me, is if that game is just hunting the same three, mechanical dinosaurs for 40 hours, that could be a flop as well.
I think
that game's got me worried. So
I think that game will be fine. Yeah. I think it's too much like Far Cry.
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too. I think that game will be awesome. But again, I'm not going to get all the way hyped up and sucked in. I'm just going to hold off a little bit and be a little bit skeptical. But to me, that game has got that kind of level of hype that's a little bit worrying.
You don't think The Last Guardian?
The Last Guardian is almost like, I don't think it has that hype. It's got the passion of people wanting to see what it is.
Yeah.
But not the expectations. Everybody's just kind of, no, I don't think so. I think some people do. I think some people do who are like big, Team Eco fans or whatever, and probably a few people like that, or just fans of that kind of Japanese quirky style, and want, like you said, it's almost like it is in a way a PS2 era game, and it's got kind of that charm of that Sony PlayStation heyday. Yeah, like it's got that PS2 heyday Sony era, everything about it. So from that kind of, I think there is a few people that are probably like got a bit of a nostalgia for that kind of game. So there probably is a fair few people that are hyped up for it, but mostly I think people just want to see it come out and see what it is. I don't think it's got that level of hype and anticipation that No Man's Sky did.
Yeah, No Man's Sky was, I think, a unique case. Obviously, there'll be a game that resembles it in a certain element, but I think No Man's Sky is interesting in that the relationship between the developer and the console. I think it's interesting how that is like beneficial to each other to a certain point, but then become toxic, right? Like there's always that element of using each other.
That's right, and that's what surprised me, that Sony was so quick to kind of backtrack and turn their back on No Man's Sky. So I think that was some other developers to be a little bit wary. But it happens on Microsoft side as well. Where they've kind of Rare or whatever, and then nothing ever happened, and there's they throw their support behind something. As soon as it doesn't work out, they'll turn their back on it. So like you said, that's just the nature of business to an extent, but I think people will be a little bit wary of working with Sony maybe on indie developers might be. But I just have a bad feeling that gamers won't learn their lesson. And like you said, when the next No Man's Sky comes along, there will be everybody again waiting in line.
Just please no death threats
right
next
back
time.
On that hype train. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What about upcoming games? We've obviously got Forza Horizon 3 set in Australia. Have you?
Yeah.
I don't have an Xbox, but
that game looks really good.
Yeah, it does. Like I know you're into car games. Would you get that on PC though? Like,
I kind of really want to play. Yeah, I actually have been kind of contemplating, like, should I pick up a 1070 and pick up because all the Microsoft games are now coming out on PC and Xbox One.
Yeah, crossplay.
And so I've been thinking, look, it's probably time for a card upgrade because I've got a very old AMD. And now I'm seeing like Forza Horizon 3 looks really good.
Because then you could wait till the Scorpio, right?
Footage of that. Yeah, exactly. And then, I saw today a bus ad for Gears of War 4. That's not far away. I think that's only a couple of weeks or a few weeks away, and I love my Gears of War. But look, for both of those, you need a beefy card. And so I was thinking, maybe a 1070 would be good at this stage. And then once you do buy those games, if I ever do buy a Scorpio, I'll have access to those games straight away because I think it's that kind of cross-play. So once you've bought it on either platform, you've got access to it on both. And so Forza Horizon 3 looks really good.
What about the other games like FIFA?
I think the first one. No, it's only for first-party titles. So I think the first one was the one that came out just recently, Recore, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which didn't get great reviews, but people said, it's an interesting little title. And then I think you've also got Forza, and then I'm not sure what else there will be down the line, but basically any first-party Microsoft title should have that.
Forza.
Oh, you would think so. I don't know how far off the next Halo is, but you would think that would have it as well. So I was actually kind of thinking like maybe a 1070 at this stage wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because I do actually really want to play. I really want to play Gears of War 4, and I really want to play Forza, but I don't want to get an Xbox One S now that is going to come out in a year.
What about in the next week?
So,
like, are you getting FIFA, for example, or is there anything else?
Well, funny you should say that because I just saw that Big W will be having FIFA for $69.
Yep.
And that comes out this Thursday.
It is, yeah.
I do believe. So, time for Ruth. Are you going to pick it up or not?
No, I don't think so.
You're going to hold off?
I want to play the Journey, but
trophy list had been released, and looks like the Journey, from what I read in some comments online, looks like the Journey is just one season.
Oh, okay.
It's just
so excited.
It's just a single season, so I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward experience, pretty linear.
Yeah.
So that's not really that exciting. I saw the trophy list, and once again, there's that trophy for winning the Ultimate Team draft.
Oh no!
Which is just
brutal.
People really seem to hate that one. And I saw now if you buy it on day one, I think even from Big W for $69, you get Ultimate Team draft tokens, which I'm guessing, does that get you 5 entries into the tournament?
That would be more valuable than packs, to be honest.
I think so, yeah, because some comments from people saying like in FIFA 16, for some people it took them like 15, 20 goes to be able to get that trophy.
That's like 500,000 points or something. Yeah.
Well, if you can get it at all, yeah, that's right. And I've had, I mean, FIFA is notorious for it, at least for me, where you just get those random disconnects and it marks it as a loss.
Yeah.
If you experience that a lot, but I
have all the time.
It's and you're winning, and it disconnects you, and you get signed out of Ultimate
Yep.
Team. The internet's fine. I log straight back in,
And you
and
cop a
there's
loss.
that, and that's when you really want to break your controller because there's that message there's the pop-up message basically saying like, oh, hey, you quit. You shouldn't quit. Don't quit the game.
Your do not
3-0
finish
loss,
percentage has
and you
gone up to
just
1%.
That's right. Yeah. And you just want to snap the disc in half. Like it's just, there's so much about that game that drives you up the wall. And then every year it rolls around again.
Still
and
going to get it, aren't you?
That's right. No, I think I'm going to hold off. I think I'm going to be strong and hold off this time as well, because it just looks a lot like the same as last year, to be honest. And, they're really trying to milk you now with this Ultimate Team draft. And look, if they just introduce the Ultimate Team draft as a mode, that's fine. The fact that they put a trophy behind it, the fact that they put a trophy behind something that's, unless you are really good or really lucky, it's going to involve probably some microtransactions. Because to enter the tournament costs you like 15,000 gold coins.
It does, yeah.
That's a fair few games
like
to get
a full day of playing, typically like 6 hours or so.
Exactly. That's probably like 10 to 12 games.
It is, yeah.
Of Ultimate Team.
Unless you're popping the catalog boost. Yeah.
Exactly. So unless you're really good or really lucky and you can, it's going to be. And unless you want to just grind out the coins, you're probably going to be doing microtransactions to keep entering. So the fact that they put a trophy behind that is just, I think, adds to the annoyance. And I think I'm going to pass. I think I'm going to skip it. It looks. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going to hold off. It's a no go for me.
Okay, so anything else?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, you have the titles that are coming out this week. So you've also got Forza Horizon 3. We mentioned that. XCOM 2 comes out on PS4 and Xbox One.
It got pretty good reception, I think.
I mean, I played a fair bit of the first XCOM. I didn't finish it, but I played a fair bit of it on PC, and it was a really good game. I got to the point where I was kind of wanting to maybe restart the game, and that's where I kind of thought, I can't really be bothered starting from scratch, because it's one of those ones where it kind of started going downhill for me. I kept losing guys, and it kind of got the situation started spinning a little bit out of control, and I was looking to probably start over, and I didn't get around to it. XCOM, and I think people are saying it's more of the same, but probably a little bit more refined, and still bloody hard. But look, I mean, if I was going to pick up that game, I would have picked it up probably anyway, because it's more of a PC game.
It is,
so maybe later when there's a Steam sale. But having a look at what else is coming out, nothing much else that catches the eye. So I think, if you're a FIFA fan, this is the perfect time. And you got the long weekend over here in Sydney this weekend. The game comes out on Thursday. It's almost perfect timing, but no, I'm going to hold off. It's a no-go for me.
I'm not getting it at all, so there's no temptation for me.
Yeah, no, I think that. Yeah, I'm gonna hold off for now.
I think that'll do for this week's podcast, unless you have anything else to add or interesting tidbit.
I think that's pretty much everything. We've covered it all, and we'll be back next week for more.
Yeah, so this time next week, we should have the announcement for October's PS Plus. So we can talk about that in detail. I usually release an article, so that'll be out too. We may touch on the PlayStation VR, though I think the launch is still 2 weeks away, so maybe we can wait a week. We will find something else wonderful and intriguing to talk about if we don't talk about VR. I'd just like to take the time to thank everyone who has listened, subscribed to the various platforms that host this podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, on the website. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to send them in. Both Eden and I are happy to hear them. So with that being said, thank you, Eden, for joining me once again.
No problem. See you next week.
And we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.